Well, hello everybody, welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm making focaccia. This is a flat type of Italian bread which is very tasty. It has olive oil in it and on the top, and often there are various things put on the top: cherry tomatoes, rosemary, mixes of herbs and such like. And for mine, I'm going to top mine with some fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, some garlic powder, garlic granules, and some shaved Parmesan cheese. But you can put on whatever you want. And I'm making quite a large one. My pan is 42 centimetres by 30 centimetres, 16.5 inches by 12 inches. So that's quite large. People who don't have a pan that large can actually easily divide this in two and make two smaller ones. It will work, and you can even do freeform. You don't even need to have a rim around the edge of the pan if you don't want to. But it does take a bit of time because we have to allow the dough to proof, and it's quite a wet dough, but we have to allow it to proof at least twice before it goes into the oven to bake. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And I have 600 grams, which is 4 cups based on 150 grams per cup of bread flour. I have 20 grams of sugar, which is about 2.5 tablespoons. I have 7 grams, 1 packet of instant yeast. I have 3 teaspoons of salt, 15 grams, and then I have 65 millilitres, which is 1/4 of a cup plus 1 teaspoon of olive oil. I have 150 millilitres, which is 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of milk, and I have 290 millilitres, which is 1 cup plus 3 tablespoons of water. The milk and the water are at room temperature, as is the olive oil. And then here I have extra olive oil. I need 3 or 4 tablespoons extra later on. And I have my thyme, my rosemary, my garlic powder, and my Parmesan, again, which I'll need later on. So we'll go on to make the dough. And the first thing I'm going to do is to put the sugar and the yeast into my flour. And I'm going to give that a mix around. I'll mix that a bit further in the stand mixer. And I'm doing this in a stand mixer because it's a highly hydrated dough and it gets very sticky. You can do it by hand, but it's going to be much easier in the mixer. So I'm going to put the flour into the bowl, and that's of course got the sugar and the yeast in it. And I'm going to use my beater attachment first of all. And I'm just going to give that on a low speed a little mix around. And then I'm going to add in the water, the milk and the olive oil and start mixing that around, again with the beater attachment. As that's come together quite quickly. I'm now going to switch to my dough hook, and I'm going to knead it with the dough hook for 15 minutes. And now that that's mixed for a couple of minutes, I'm going to add my salt in and continue mixing for the remainder of the 15 minutes. So that is now kneaded for 15 minutes, and I'm going to take it out and put it onto a floured work surface. And as I said, this dough is still very, very tacky. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn that over on itself a couple of times, like that. And I'm going to put that into a bowl which I have very lightly greased. And I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave it to proof for a couple of hours until it's doubled in size. So I'll leave it in a warm, draft-free place, and once it's doubled in size, I'll come back and we'll go on to the next step. So my dough has doubled in size, as you can see, and so we go on to the next stage, which is to put it into my tin. But before we do that, I need to oil the tin with some olive oil. You can be quite generous with the olive oil, but we need to coat it completely. Like that, and that's good. So then the next thing to do is to put our dough into that tin, and then I'm going to oil my hands as well. And I need to press this out and shape it until it fills the tin. Now, if it doesn't readily fill the tin because it keeps springing back, it just needs to be rested for a few minutes. You can cover it up and rest it, and then it will be easier. And with that nicely spread across the pan like that, I'm going to cover it with cling film plastic wrap again, and I'm going to allow it to rest for another hour. And as that hour comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and then we'll be ready to bake this once we've put the topping on. So I'll be back in an hour when this is rested and we're ready to top the focaccia and bake it. So it's been an hour now, and our dough has risen quite nicely. It just rises a little bit. Mine's a little bit thinner in places, in two corners than I would like it, but it will be fine, I'm sure. So the next thing to do is to drizzle some oil on here, but before I do that, I'm going to take some oil in my hands and I'm just going to coat my fingers in oil, and I'm going to poke my fingers in the dough like that. And then I'm going to drizzle oil over the top. Like that. And I'm going to sprinkle over my thyme . And then I'm going to put my rosemary on as well. And as I say, you can use whatever you want on these. And you put as much and as little as you want. Like that. And then I'm going to take some garlic powder and I'm just going to sprinkle that all over as well. And to finish it off, I'm going to just grate a little bit of Parmesan on the top. That's enough. And I'm going to put that into my oven and bake it for between 35 and 40 minutes until the top has hopefully got a nice golden brown colour. I'll take it out of the oven and immediately transfer it to a wire rack. We don't want to leave it in the tin because the underside will start to sweat. So we need to take it out of the tin so that the air can get underneath as it's cooling down. And once it's cooled down, I'll come back and we'll have a taste of it. I baked the focaccia for 35 minutes and took it out of the oven and I allowed it to cool down completely. So now it's cooled down. I've cut it just so that I can look inside, and this is what it looks like. So it's got a very nice crumb to it, as you can see. And this piece for me is ideal to slice horizontally and use as a sandwich, but I'll have a taste of a little stick of it which I might normally dip in something like some olive oil with some herbs and garlic or something in it, but I'll eat it just as it is. Well, first of all, it has a lovely texture to it, just as focaccia should have, with the oil in it. It makes it a very nice texture indeed. And the topping with the herbs and the garlic powder and such like gives an extra flavour. Of course, you can use any topping you like. You can put olives in on the top, or you can put cherry tomatoes, combinations of herbs and cheese and such like. But this does taste very good indeed. So I'm very pleased with that. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to this recipe, and I'll put a link for it below the video as well. And then I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.